Let's speak to the UK political expert. The author Thom Brooks joins me now from Durham in the United Kingdom. Thom, you're Dean and Chair in Law and Government at Durham University, so you are the perfect guest. When was the last time you saw something like this happening in the UK?
This whole event is extraordinary. I mean, normally you wouldn't have anything like this happening in this order. So, for example, a little over a week ago, the government was the first in British history to be found in contempt of Parliament. This was over refusing to show its legal advice over the Brexit deal that they were trying to get other members of Parliament to sign up to, but without showing them the legal advice they had on that deal. You've never had anything like that happen before. Usually governments would either cave in or quit, but this government has just tried to kind of stumble on. And right now, extraordinary, getting these votes or these letters in of calling for no confidence votes. This is, of course, amongst only Tory members of Parliament will be having this decision tonight. But really unprecedented territory. Any other government would probably have quit right now or called for general elections. One of the problems around that is, of course, this timetable for Brexit. If there was a general election called starting pretty immediately, that would be at least 2 months wiped off the clock towards Brexit, giving any new government very little time to either get preparations underway to agree this deal, if possible, in Parliament and move on with it, or to reject the deal and decide whether or not to proceed with no deal planning, for which there's been virtually no planning at all, or to hold another vote on a referendum, or to remain, to extend the process for leaving European Union. It's really quite a mess that this government has put the country in, and really extraordinary times.
Thom, you highlight the confusion so well. There are so many different possible scenarios now, and this is just the latest, which has added to the confusion. Is Theresa May a victim of not sticking to her principles, having said no deal is better than a bad deal, and then coming up with this deal, which only a handful of people in the Parliament believe is a good deal, including Theresa May, and everybody else says it's a bad deal? But no, she doesn't accept that. She goes back to the European Union and said, let's do some more renegotiations because I can do this. I want to be Prime Minister and I will deliver the Brexit deal that I believe in.
I think that's right. Her claim that no deal was better than a bad deal was, I thought, very silly posturing. Much of the last roughly 2 years has been spent giving an awful lot of press comments and statements to the British public to kind of reassure the public that the government was taking Brexit very seriously. They seemed very concerned about internal comms within the UK and keeping voters on side, but not really spending much time on the fine detail with the European Union and getting the deal that they wanted. I mean, no deal was always going to be pretty calamitous, and that's because, of course, if Britain crashes out in March, in a few months, without any transition deal, it means that all the different institutions and regulations and rules and bodies and other things that the UK is a part of, with aviation, so no planes going over the European Union, immigration for EU citizens, all these things are in the air. There's nothing there, and something will have to be done. So it was always going to be calamitous. There was never really planning for it, and it seemed very kind of, I thought, silly posturing to kind of reassure the British public. The real problem that Theresa May, I think, has got herself into is from the very start, she wanted to make this about herself, about her team. She did not invite Labour. She did not invite the Scottish National Party. She did not invite other opposition leaders to be a part of a grand national coalition. I think that would have been very wise, because if at the end of the deal those parties did not like it, they would be tied into it. Or if they decided not to be part of a grand coalition group and then not like a later deal, she could have said, well, you have the opportunity to help forge a better deal in the national interest, but you chose not to be part of it. She chose to kind of go this alone so she could get all the credit for anything going well, but of course then gets all the blame when things not going well. And I'd also just add very briefly, she had so many red lines as to what the deal was not going to be about that it was going to be very difficult for her to ever deliver on this. She left herself very little negotiating room. And so when it came time to make compromises, looking at the Northern Ireland border, looking at other issues, she really had no room to go. And so when that space was crossed, was going to upset Remainers who look at this saying, well, look, we've got a worse deal than we've got right now. We're going to be worse off, and so we will be against it. Now, that might be expected. But for Leave, those who supported Leave, they are then disappointed, saying, well, you made these red lines, you made these promises, you have not stuck to those promises. We are against this too. So effectively a deal that no one was ever going to be happy with, only confirmed, and it's a mess, I think, that she's created by herself in trying to engineer a deal that she would get full credit for if it went well. That's not worked to plan.
Thom, give us your analysis of the two potential scenarios that will happen after this vote. Scenario one, Theresa May remains Prime Minister. What does that mean for Brexit?
If Theresa May remains as Prime Minister, I think that is particularly a very difficult situation. I think it's very difficult because her government, as I said, the first ever found in contempt of Parliament. It's difficult to see how Parliament can have much confidence in a Prime Minister when it seems over 100 of her own MPs have publicly come out against her Brexit plan, the only plan that she's really devoted almost all of her time to delivering on over 2 years. So she would be a really hapless Prime Minister, clinging on to her office, but really not having much power. I think that is, if she were to survive no confidence vote tonight from the Tory members of Parliament, I think that I would expect a no confidence motion to be issued very quickly, either right.
Okay, well, clearly we've lost the line to Thom Brooks there, who was speaking to us about the latest developments in the Brexit.